Hey, what's up? Bungie shipped this build to patch a handful of the rougher launch edges, stability hiccups, some of those maddening crashes, and a few loading problems that were making runs feel less smooth than they should. There's also some general performance work in here, the kind of under-the-hood fixes that don't always make for the most exciting headlines, but are the ones that make your runs feel more reliable and less full of surprise disconnects. Now, let's talk specifics without sounding like I'm reading a checklist. The core of this patch is bug mitigation. Multiplayer stability got attention, several crash scenarios were addressed, and loading flows were tightened up, which means fewer interrupted matches and less time staring at loading bars. Performance improvements were included too. Think fewer sudden hitches and generally steadier play. There are also a bunch of smaller quality of life tweaks peppered throughout the build. None of this is sexy on the surface, but collectively it's the kind of stuff that makes the game playable for more people and reduces those "did that just happen" moments that kill momentum. Beyond the immediate fixes, the team previewed concrete gameplay adjustments that should make typical runs a little more forgiving in practical ways. The navigation markers for objectives have been extended so they appear from twice the previous distance. That change is genuinely handy when you're trying to orient in a firefight and don't want to wander aimlessly hunting for the next interact. On maps like Perimeter, the spawn tables were tweaked so you'll see more med cabinets and more munitions crates. That's an intentional move to ease the scarcity pressure that many players complained about in early sessions. These aren't massive power shifts, but they do nudge the loop toward less punishing resource management and let players focus more on tactics and less on scraping for basic supplies. Equipment got a small but meaningful push as well. A few of the free sponsored kits had their starting ammo increased. Mayday, Cyberacne, and Arachne were called out specifically. For newer players or folks trying out a kit for the first time, having a bit more ammo at spawn reduces the "oh no, I'm out" learning curve and lets you actually test the loadout instead of scrounging for the first 5 minutes. For veterans, it slightly changes opening engagements and how aggressively you can push without immediately hunting for crates. It's a subtle change, but it ripples through early run choices in a satisfying way. There's also a monetization tweak that a lot of people will care about. The $10 Lux bundle has been adjusted so that it will grant 1,120 Lux instead of the previous 1,100, and players who already purchased that bundle will be credited the 20 Lux difference per bundle as compensation. That change specifically addresses the awkward situation where key cosmetics cost 1,120 Lux and the $10 package left you just short, forcing an extra purchase to reach the exact cost. It's a small numerical change, but it removes that friction point where you end up having to spend more than you intended because the store's pricing didn't line up neatly with the bundle. Developers publicly committed to crediting past buyers with the extra Lux so no one gets left out after the fix. So what does all of this mean in practice? For the average run, you should expect fewer stability problems and a smoother flow overall. You'll also notice objective pointers sooner, which keeps momentum up when you're juggling enemies and mission goals. And the ammo and med adjustments mean you'll be less likely to be forced into a humiliating early retreat for basic supplies. The Lux tweak is a pragmatic fix to a store math problem. It doesn't change whether you want the cosmetics, but it makes buying them less annoying and slightly fairer for people who already bought in. I know there's been a lot of feedback flying at the studio about difficulty, loot frequency, and monetization balance, and this build feels intentionally conservative and corrective. Not a redesign, but a targeted set of fixes to the most painful pain points. That's the kind of patch you want early on. It stabilizes the experience and gives the devs a chance to observe how players adapt before making bigger mechanical shifts. The changes to spawn rates and navigation help reduce RNG frustration without flattening the risk-reward structure that makes extraction runs tense and exciting in the first place. Alright, I'll wrap this up without telling you to do anything special. Just so you know, the update landed to address those specific stability, loading, and quality of life complaints, and it carries a few adjustments intended to make runs less punishing and store purchases less irritating. The tone of the patch is practical and patient. Fix what breaks, tweak what blocks fun, and leave the bigger redesign conversations for later. That's the gist of the 1.005 rollout and what it actually changes for players.